Oh, why not? She's kind of
Yeah, you may.
Yeah, I'm sitting on your camera. I'm hard.
So you can see my black chair.
I didn't know that.
What surgery?
I just changed it to black shirt.
Okay. So yeah, I was like, I can do that again. No, that was
I'm getting ready to go to Ireland in 2 weeks.
So I learned the tradition. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't have it. It was something. I don't know where I went to school, but we did. So I don't know if it was totally. So, yeah, I'm here, so we did that. And I just, I don't know. So we did. We were like, okay.
Was an Ireland. I haven't explored the house. Oh no, I haven't. Well, anytime you want, pretty much. I just decided I wanted to get here. Yeah. And I was the first one here, so I was sitting here, and then it opened there too. So I said, well, can I sit in the rock chair up there? Yeah, sure. So I sat and I saw some other people coming there, but you were able to come in. So I thought, well, I've got to get a seat because I don't know how busy or how bad it will be. No. I went past it because I didn't know there was no sign that said anything. No. So then I went back again, and then I saw this go back. Okay. This guy, he says, well, here, we park you, and he says, you're in the right place, and then he says, but it won't open until 2. He says, you can go over there to the store over there. Or I said, I'm just going to sit here and wait and get in and look at that later. Oh, that is really cool. I love to see that. Wow. That's almost like watching a Lifetime movie or something. Wow. Oh, wow. That would be really cool.
It's not.
over here, I'm telling you, or Deborah.
I've seen you.
I've seen you before. That's right.
Oh, she black.
Got the whole thing.
So, you all,
I do.
I wasn't aware that I did until somebody from Maryland said, oh. But it turns out my last name is the name of Orange County, the second largest, I think, in Ireland, Snails, County Mayo. And it turns out that during the Irish potato famine, they emigrated to Cuba.
Wow.
I didn't know it was during that time.
I'm going to Ireland too.
All we hear is that old potato famine. Cuba's almost like right. You know.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Oh, I know what you're talking about. They used to. Yeah.
Here I go, this is me now.
Their family that lives in
Yes.
my mom and she's adopted, so there's not a lot of information. They're like,
Sometimes it's such a thing. I had to wait until to get my phone working because it was like this bad spot. I had to do it a couple of times for my dad. Really? Oh, wow. Or R. Isn't that wild? That is really something. Right over here. Yeah. Oh, that is really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, then you don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah, she just turned in the extras so other people could have. Yeah. Look at all her.
No, it's a big holiday. And kindergarten is my favorite. You know, who wants to go crazy like, yeah, right?
I used to see them every year, along with and one of them said, Michael, she went because it was so good. Canada was one, I can't I love seeing them every year. Oh, yeah, they are. At least you're not allergic. That's what you're moving. Vintage gal.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Cedar Grove and our March Hearts Happening, Irish Connections. This National Register historic landmark was built in 1831, and next door is the Hugh Torrance House and Store, one of Mecklenburg County's few remaining 18th century structures. And the original log house was built by Irish immigrant Hugh Torrance in 1779, making it the oldest standing store in the state of North Carolina. We've got an outstanding program for you today, and I think we should jump right in by immersing you in some authentic Irish music, specifically ballads. We're excited to have with us today a duo specializing in this musical tradition, and in addition to performing for us, they will also be sharing some of the stories and history behind these spellbinding songs. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Shamrocks in the Wind.
Oh, come tell me, Sean O'Farrell, tell me why you hurry so. Hush me, Ogle, hush and listen, his cheeks were all aglow. Under orders from the captain to make her ready quick and soon. for the pikes must be together by the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon. All the pikes must be together by the rising of the moon. Come tell me, Sharrow Farrell, where the gathering is to be. In the old spot by the river Rhine, will only you and me. Yonder both their signal took and whistle out the marching tune. For your pipe come on your shoulder, 'tis the rising of the moon. 'Tis the rising of the moon, 'tis the rising of the moon. All the pikes must be together by the rising of the moon. Out of many mud you won't have eyes when we're watching through the night. Many manly heart was throbbing for the coming morning light. Rumors ran along the valley like the banshee's lonely crew, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. There along that shining river that dark Massacre were seen, high above their shining weapons hung their own beloved green. Death to every foe and traitor, forward strike the marching town. Come on, me boys, for freedom, 'tis the rising of the moon. Hi. Thank you very much. We are Shamrocks in the Wind. My name is John, born Cork City, County Cork, Ireland. This is Carol. She's
Scots-Irish.
I am wearing her
North-Irish,
tartan.
for those of those.
I am wearing her tartan today because Irishmen don't wear tartans. And the only one I have from my mother would be Royal Stewart. And I don't think an Irishman
Which wouldn't be
wear
allowed in
Royal
our
Stewart.
house.
So. Anyway, Irish music has a tremendous amount of war and fighting and rebellion and sadness and all of that from the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that they've been doing it. But they were not alone in their fight. Those of you who are Scottish know that the Scots spent a lot of time fighting England as well. But sometimes the Scots came over to help the Irish, and sometimes the Irish went over to help the Scots. If you've ever seen Braveheart, the movie, in it, the British Army attacks the Scots Highlanders, and the lead company are Irishmen. And they get up to the line, turn around, join the Scots, and go fight the English. So we're fickle too. But this is a song about a Scotsman coming to fight with the Irish. And it goes something like this. One evening fair as the sun was shining, to Kilkenny I did ride, I did meet with Captain Brady. A tall commander by his side, saying you are welcome Highland Valley. By my side you'll surely stand, hear the people shout for freedom. We'll rise in the morning with the Fenian band, we'll rise in the morning with the Fenian band. And in the morning we rose early, just before the break of dawn, blackbird singing in the bushes. Greetings to the fighting boys, that they are welcome Highland Valley. By my side you'll surely stand, hear the people shout for freedom. We'll rise in the morning with the Fenian band, rise in the morning with the Fenian band. Gather round me, men of Ireland, gather Fenians, gather round, hand to hand with sword and musket. Spill their blood upon this holy ground. You are welcome Highland Valley. By the side you'll surely stand, hear the people shout for freedom. We'll rise in the morning with a Fenian band, rise in the morning with a Fenian band. Now there's a glen beside the river, just outside Kilkenny town. There I met that noble captain, George riding on the Fenian side. And there's a grave beside the river, Just outside Kilkenny town, there we laid our noble captain. Church were started when this Fenian died. Together round the men of Ireland. Gather Fenians, gather round, hand to hand with sword and musket. Fill their blood upon the holy ground. For you are welcome, Highland Daddy. By the time you'll surely stand, in the people shout for freedom. We'll rise in the morning with the Fenian band. Rise in the morning with the Fenian band. You are welcome, Highland Daddy. By the side you'll surely stand. Hear the people shout for freedom. 82-year-old brain freeze. Sorry about that. This next song was my father's favorite song. And it comes from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And again, it's a war song. And we'll do more things in the next thing.
Right, these first three songs are about the history of coming over, or the fight that was going on in Ireland and between the Irish and Scots and British. The second set will be moving into what happened afterwards when the famine strikes. So that's what's coming in the next set. So this one is about his father's favorite song.
Father's favorite song. And if you've ever seen any of the movies from back then, you might recognize the uniform. There's a uniform that's hanging in what's known as Father's room. The uniform so simple in its style. It has no braid of silk or gold or hat that's feathered blue. That my mother has preserved it all the while. One day she made me try it on, which is mine for years. Just in memory of your Shawnee, he said. And as I tried the sand-run, she was silent through her tears, and she placed a broad black river on me head. Just a broad black river, it's ribbon straight and torn by the cares of many the mountain breeze. It's an old trench coat, that's all battle scarred and torn, from bridges almost threadbare and lead. Now it's a sand-brown coat, with a buckle big and strong, and a holster that's fitting many the day. When in clean Ireland's freedom, the one they choose to lead over the broad black river of the IRA. That uniform was worn by my father long ago, when he reached my mother's homestead on the run. That uniform was worn in that little church below, where Father Mac, he blessed the pair as one. Then after truce and treaty and the parting of the ways, he wore it when he marched up with the rest. And when they brought his body down the rugged heather brae, they placed a broad black river on his chest. Just a broad black river, his ribbon straight and tall, on the hills submitting the mountain breeze. It's an old trench coat, that's all mountains hard and worn, the bridges all threadbare and lead. Now it's a sand-brown coat, with a buckle big and strong, and a holster that's been intimidated the day. When in clean Ireland's freedom, the one they choose to lead over the broad black river of the IRA. Yes, when in clean Ireland's freedom, the one they choose to lead them over the broad black river of the IRA.
Good afternoon again, and welcome to the Irish Connection, our March Hearts happening here at Cedar Grove and the Hugh Torrance House and Store. You've been enjoying the music of Shamrocks in the Wind. Let's give it another They are John and Carol Dienel, and they have put together a very special program of music for you this afternoon featuring the Irish ballad tradition. Ballads have been around for hundreds of years, since medieval times, actually. And above all else, these are storytelling songs. There's a narrative that unfolds in the verses of a ballad that paints a picture, sometimes tragic, sometimes heroic, sometimes comical, but always gripping. Indeed, we hear something universal in these story songs, and I believe that is why they have survived so long, being passed down from one generation to the next for centuries before they were finally written down in the 1800s. John and Carol have made a study of these ballads and have been performing them for decades, sharing the stage with many well-known performers over the years, including the Kingston Trio, Glenn Yarborough, and the Wolf Tones. So stay tuned, they will be treating us to some more music throughout the afternoon. One more round of applause for Shamrocks and the Wind. As you know, if you have joined us before, Hearts Happenings are monthly, place-based experiences designed to foster our shared sense of place and community by exploring what is right here beneath our feet. Next door, I want to make sure you know that the Hugh Torrance House and Store is open, and there's a restroom facility behind Hugh Torrance House and Store, and also here at Cedar Grove, across the hall in the kitchen is the restroom. Across the hall in the other room, here at Cedar Grove, is the Pink Room Bar and Reading Room, and that is open, serving a variety of beverages and also featuring a collection of books on local history, nature, architecture, and more. So be sure to check out the Pink Room while you're here. Irish Connections, of course, is our theme today as we celebrate the many links between our local community and the Emerald Isle, including the story of Hugh Torrance, who immigrated from Ireland in 1763, as well as the stories of some of his countrymen who already called this area home by the time that Hugh arrived. We've got an amazing lineup for you today. We're very excited to welcome historian Michael Jeffcoat to explore the Irish roots of many of the founding families in North Carolina and our region specifically. We're delighted to have with us today actor, playwright, professor, and Cornelius native Michael Connor, who will share his Irish ancestry, which is also shared by many other African Americans. And it is our pleasure to welcome artist Meredith Connelly. Her ethereal and magical installation entitled Snails and Mushrooms is featured in the Center Hall Gallery, and she will join us in a bit to speak about her art, her Irish ancestry, and the connection between the two. Throughout the afternoon, Abigail Jennings will be sharing information about some Irish-themed wonders of nature that can be found here on this historic site, and most likely in your own backyard too. So stay tuned for some eco minutes from Abigail. But first, we're going to turn it back over to John and Carol for some more ballads and ballad history. So, ladies and gentlemen, Shamrocks in the Wind.
This next song is actually not a terribly old song, but it sounds like it is. It sounds like it's quite old. But when the Irish, after they got done fighting the English, they also then ran into a famine, all sorts of other things over there. And a lot of them left Ireland on their own and came to the United States and Canada. That's why there are people here. Others, in order to try and stay alive, turned to petty crimes and so on, were arrested, and got the wonderful experience of going down to Australia and Tasmania for the rest of their lives. And this first song is about that group.
A young man who was trying to provide for his family was caught and put on the prison ship, and that meant he was gone forever. The families were not allowed to go with them and probably could never ever find them in Australia. Very rarely did they ever find their family again. So it was a permanent sentence.
By a lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling, Michael, they have taken you away, for you stole Trevelyan's corn, that our young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. And lo, by the fields of apple rye, and once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams, songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Captain Rye. That lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they cut me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. And lo, lie the fields of Athenry. Once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams, songs to sing. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. By that lonely harbor wall, she watched the last star falling. As the prison ship sailed out against the sky, now she lives and hopes and prays for her love in Botany Bay. It's so lonely round the fields of Athenry. And lo, lie the fields of Athenry. Once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams, songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry.
All right, now he mentioned that one of the places they were taken off to was Australia. Well, they like to make songs about the folks that came down there. And we know that this is a favorite song, so we're going to do it for you. It's an Australian song.
This is a song you hear in both Ireland and Australia. The Irish don't understand that it's wrong, but that's okay.
It's just.
No one ever went to Botany Bay in Australia. The first prison fleet went there, immediately found that it was an absolutely uninhabitable place.
The harbor was too shallow.
Went around the harbor to Sydney Harbor, and that's the last time a prison ship went to Botany Bay, was the very first time.
But nobody went back to tell anybody.
Nobody could go home. Anyway, here's a song about one of those Irishmen who escaped from prison and took up a different kind of profession in Australia. There was a wild colonial boy, Jack Griffin was his name. He was born and raised in Ireland in a place called Castlemaine. He was his father's only son, his mother's pride and joy, and dearly did his parents love the wild colonial boy. At the early age of 16 years, he left his native home. And to Australia's sunny shores, he was inclined to roam. He robbed the rich, he helped the poor, he shot Judge McAvoy. The terror to Australia was the wild colonial boy. One day upon the prairie, as Jackie rode along, listening to the mockingbird, singing its cheerful song. Up stepped the band of troopers, Kelly Davis and Fitzroy. They all set out to capture him, the wild colonial boy. Surrender now, gentlemen, for you see we're 3-1. Surrender in the Queen's high name, you are a plundering son. Jack drew two pistols from his belt and proudly waved them high. I'll fight, but not surrender, said the wild colonial boy. He fired a shot at Kelly, which brought him to the ground. And turning round to Davis, he received a fatal wound. A bullet pierced his proud young heart from the pistol of Fitzroy. And that is how they captured him, the wild colonial boy. And that is how they captured him, a wild colonial boy.
That was a special request that they honored from me. When I was growing up, I listened to my parents, and in our house we listened to a lot of Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem and things like that. And the Wild Colonial Boy was always one of my very favorites, and I loved the robbing from the rich and stealing from the poor, that whole concept. And terror to Australia was the Wild Colonial Boy. I thought that sounded like something to aspire to. So it's wonderful to hear. Thank you very much for that. And I think we got
One more song. But this one is about a lot of the younger people in Ireland left and came over to the United States, and a lot of them landed in New York and Chicago, and they started working, and they would send money home to their families, but they didn't get to go home themselves. So a lot of them were really, really sad and really wishing that they could be back in Ireland again.
And some of the most beautiful of the Irish music are the songs written by the people who had to leave, like the people who came and built this house, and never got to go home. Because it really was pretty much a one-way trip. Very seldom in the old days could you go back. And this is one of those. And if you've ever seen a movie, The Quiet Man, with John Wayne, this song is about where they filmed that movie.
Innisfree is where this was filmed, and it is the most beautiful place, and the waves come in across the beach and they make these horsetails up in the air. It's absolutely gorgeous. So if you ever get a chance to go over there, you have to go to Innisfree. Portneuf, the Bay.
I've met some folks who say that I'm a dreamer. I've no doubt there's truth in what they say. For sure a body's bound to be a dreamer when all the things he loves are far away, and precious things are dreamed unto an exile. They take him o'er the land, across the sea. home in Innisfree. I wander o'er green hills and lovely valleys and find a peace no other land can know. I hear the birds make music fit for angels and watch the rivers dance as they flow. But dreams don't last, the dreams are not forgotten, and soon I'm back to stern reality. And though they pave the footpaths here with gold dust, I still would choose my Isle of Innisfree. And when the moonlight peeks across the rooftop of this great city, wondrous though it be, I scarcely feel its wonder or its laughter. I'm once again back home in
We're going to come back with some more of the fun stuff that the Irish used to do, so we'll be back in a minute.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Shamrocks in the Wind. And now we'd like to do a quick shout out to our sponsors today, whose support makes these free community events possible. A big thanks to Lake Norman Realty. And thanks also to our Heart Circle members. Heart Circle is our membership organization, and if you like what you are experiencing here today and want to help sustain these grassroots free community programs, information about Heart Circle membership is online at hught.org. That's hught.org, Hugh Torrance Housing Store. Our next guest, Meredith Connelly, is an award-winning multidisciplinary artist, best known for her grand-scale installations emphasizing the interplay of light, science, and technology. Connelly's illuminated, site-specific displays connect and submerge viewers into glowing, otherworldly environments. Having worked with lighting and technology for over a decade, Connelly has built a practice that captured national attention, and it has engaged hundreds of thousands of participants in the inclusive power of public art. Connelly's artwork has been exhibited in prestigious museums across the Southeast and is represented in private and corporate collections, and is honored in Liza Roberts' North Carolina-centric book entitled Art of the State. She is committed to expanding community and culture through the arts, is an advocate for equality and women in the arts, and places great emphasis on supporting emerging and underrepresented artists in all stages of their careers. Meredith's installation, entitled Snails and Mushrooms, which honors the Celtic spiral and its perpetual symbolism, is on display today in our Center Hall Gallery, just here. And she is going to join us now and tell us more about her artistic process and her own Irish ancestry. And so without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Meredith Connelly.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? Great. So excited to be here. I mean, how cool is it just to like sit and listen to music that's passed down through the ages and tells a story? I think that that's one thing. I'm sorry, I'm already going. he's like, slow down, woman. I'm trying to get your mic going. I got excited. I said, how's that?
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear me in the back? I see the bench back there. You guys good? Okay. How's everybody doing? Yeah, good. So I'm very excited to be here. I don't always have the opportunity to delve into this leg of my work, which is deeply rooted in my ancestry and really more of a spiritual side of why I do what I do. So he told you a lot about my experience, and while I began with the exploration of science, nature, and technology, and that is a foundation for my work, within the last several years, and through the exploration and research and finding out more about where I came from, this other inspiration has surfaced and presented in what I create. I learned as I started to research, my last name is Connelly. I knew that I had some Irish heritage, like that wasn't, anything to be, determined, but I wanted to know more. And so I, like many, started kind of diving in a bit more and learned that my ancestors came over in 1689. They were from Armagh, Ireland, so Northern Ireland. I actually learned this after my husband took me on a surprise trip to Ireland where we got engaged. So I feel like it's very serendipitous how connected I am to that piece of ancestry, and then how that, again, bridges over to what I do now. They first settled in the Carolinas, which was dumbfounding to me because I was born in Cincinnati and relocated here. And so to find that there again was that beautiful serendipitous connection to, okay, well, I'm here on the lands or close to the lands where my ancestors were, doing work in nature outside. So my work is on display in this beautiful historic space, but a lot of what I do is outside in the woods with hundreds of these objects. I design based off of architectural elements, so a lot of that could be the perfect branch on a tree where the light is going to cast beautifully, or looking at this space, creating and bringing nature in. What I find really interesting now, understanding the Celtic roots of what where I came from, is that a lot of my ancestors were extremely focused on nature-based worship in these communities where you think about how the Celts, accoladed their environment, honored their environment, and what I find really interesting is that is something that is inherently in my blood, and it's a huge part of my process. So as I began exploring that, I was inspired because I was making all of these connections in hindsight. I can think back to being at my grandmother's house and just finding snails in her garden. I mean, I was the kid that was outside mucking around. It makes sense now knowing that I create large works outside. However, what I found beautiful about that was the idea of this spiral symbol being something that we see in nature. It's represented, it transcends culture, it transcends language, there's symbolism there. And some of the earliest spirals or these symbols are found in Europe, and they date back to prehistoric times. They're extremely old. They're not just found in these Celtic cultures, it transcends that. There's a Native American culture and other cultures that these present. So by discovering this, it really led me to looking at that spiritual aspect of symbolism in what I create. And that's where you'll see, as you enter, you probably saw the work. As you leave, you'll see it again. You'll see the snail form, and that is something that I found really fun, was exploring the symbolism of the Celtic spiral through a contemporary lens. So I mentioned earlier that I like to explore science, nature, and technology. And so those people have come up and asked, what is it made out of? How did you do it? You'll see the mushrooms as well. So that's where the technology comes in. And I find that fun to think about ancient ancestry and older processes and then combining that or juxtaposing that with new technology processes. So the snails are actually designed digitally. I took an actual snail specimen, so a giant snail shell, and we did hundreds and hundreds of images in a 3D. I'm such a hand talker, I hope you guys can visualize that. Hundreds and hundreds of images to capture the shape of the snail. Went back in and drew it. And then from there, those were 3D printed. So that's where the technology piece comes in, and I find that really, really compelling. That while there's the ancient spiral symbol that's found in nature and found in these ancestral traditions, that also we're using technological processes to explore that. with that, you'll see the mushrooms, and those are made of a thermoplastic. So I use a lot of, again, industrial materials, and those are hand sculpted. So I really like to play with the concept of hand touched and machine touched and ancient symbolism and the contemporary world. And I think that conversation is something that is really compelling, while it also really kind of brings us back to our roots. I think for me, as I create, I always say I don't want to have a specific intention for my viewers. I think that's limiting. I can hope that they might gain something from what they experience, but I think it's far more compelling to put it out there and let you all experience it and engage with it on your own. However, from my perspective and from my research, when you think about the spiral symbol, there's a lot there in terms of the divine feminine. That's one attribute assigned to it, or the soul's journey or the soul's path, rebirth. All of those things to me, again, transcend age, race, socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter. That is to me a language beyond one specific group. And so that's where it's really interesting to me that exploration and this leg of my work as I transition into these new series all started with the curiosity of where did I come from? Who were these people that were that came before me, and how did they get here? And am I like them? I think that's the curiosity that drove kind of how that process for me, and it's something that every time, I'm getting chills because I'm so late, but every time I find something else out, it inspires me that much more for a new work. And I think that's what's so neat about showing this work here in this space, because I think that this is a very special historical space. When you walk in the doors, I think that you can feel that. And I mean, if you just take a moment to look around, I was completely just taken away by everything that's in here. I mean, and I know there's going to be some other talk about that in more detail, but it was such an honor to bring that in because it, again, connects us to our past. And I think that's what art does. It's something that transcends and can touch the past, the present, while we're in the future. And so I'm just grateful and thankful. And if you all have questions, I will be here after to talk. But thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, thanks again, Meredith, and please don't miss her. It's as though you could miss it. You can't miss it. It's right out in our Central Hall, so please be sure to spend some time with it and enjoy that. Snails and Mushrooms. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Abigail Jennings, who, in addition to doing our PowerPoint here today, is also going to give us some more information about some of the natural elements in Meredith's installation, snails and mysterious mushroom formations that are known as fairy rings. So, ladies and gentlemen, Abigail Jennings.
Thank you. I love this part of Eco Minutes because it makes me take a minute to learn more about something that I see all the time, and I love sharing this. So here are a few things I'd love to share with you about fairy rings. So a fairy ring is also known as a fairy circle, an elf ring, pixie ring, and is a naturally occurring ring of arc of mushrooms. They are found mainly in forested areas, but also appear in grasslands or rangelands. Fairy rings are detectable by their sporocarps. Those are the fungal spore pods, and they form in rings or arcs, as well as by a necrotic zone, which is normally dead grass, or a ring of dark green grass. This means that the fungus mycelium is present in the ring or the arc underneath. These fairy rings appear in patches, rings, or arcs that are initially 1 foot or less in diameter, but they expand in size year after year, going outwards, and sometimes can reach up to several hundred feet in diameter in old turf stands. There are more than 50 different mushroom species that can cause fairy rings, And these very ring mushrooms are decomposers that grow in soil with high levels of organic matter and in areas where trees were recently removed. So that original old tree or stump is what starts it, and then it begins to go. So it expands outward in a uniform circular pattern, and they may only come out during periods of wet weather. A lot of times it's in the fall. But the good news is they don't normally cause any problems for home lawns. They are mainly viewed as a nuisance to some people, although I like them, and will often disappear as weather conditions change. Waiting for them to disappear naturally is usually the best approach. However, they may reappear during the next rainy season or return for many years, depending on how much wood or organic debris is buried in the soil. So as you have probably know already, that fairy rings are the subject of much folklore and myth worldwide. It's not just Irish, but Germany, France, Italy, almost every culture, Asia, they all have a common thread of having something to say about fairy rings. They're often seen as a hazardous or dangerous place and linked with witches or devils. Conversely, they can sometimes be linked with good fortune. Their names are often allude to supernatural origins. They are known as the Wand des Sorcières, which I'm not a good French speaker, but that's French for witch's circle, and Hexenringe for witches' rings in German. And in the German tradition, fairy rings were thought to mark the site of witches dancing on Walpurgis night. And Dutch superstitions claimed they were the circles where the devil set his milk churn. In Tyrol, folklore attributed fairy rings to the fiery tales of flying dragons. Once a dragon had created such a circle, nothing but toadstools could grow there for 7 years. European superstitions routinely warned about entering a fairy ring. The French traditions report fairy rings were guarded by giant bug-eyed toads that cursed those who violated the circles. And in other parts of Europe, if you would enter a fairy ring, you would lose an eye. So you better watch out. The fairy rings are also associated with diminutive spirits in the Philippines, so it really is a worldwide phenomenon. And we do have a little Scottish rhyme today that I was not going to attempt a Scottish accent on, but I'm happy that we have a partner willing to do so.
He what tills the fairish green, nae look again shall have. And he what spills the fairish ring, betide him want in the way. For wearless days and weary nights are his till his dying day. But he what goes by the fairy rings, nae dull nor pine shall see. And he what cleans the fairy ring, an easy death shall die.
So, thank you for letting me share a little bit about fairy rings. Next up, I'd like to share a little bit about snails. So with all of our damp spring rains, snails and slugs may be more visible than ever in our gardens and woods. I was interested to learn that North Carolina is home to more than 200 species of our native terrestrial gastropods. Snails are members of the phylum Mollusca and in the taxonomic class Gastropoda, and that also includes our slugs. There are 40,000 snail species, the largest group of living mollusks. Snails have a single spiral coiled shell, and I thought it was interesting to learn that 90% of those all grow clockwise, but we do have that little bunch that wants to do their own thing, and they call those the lefties. And so there's about 10% of those that grow counterclockwise. And these little snails are born with their shells, and through that shell of the baby snail, they're often referred to as the prontoconch, or the earliest shell, as it is colorless and very soft. And they begin to consume a lot of calcium to begin hardening that shell, and they begin eating the shell of the egg from which they hatched. And as they grow, the shell grows with it. And the new shell, the snail grows with the new shell material, and then it hardens. And then that little center in the spiral of the snail shell is the original protoconch. And this was fascinating to learn that most snails have thousands of microscopic tooth-like structures on a ribbon-like tongue called a radula, which they use to rip apart their food. Most snails are herbivores, but there are some that are carnivores and some that are omnivores as well. Some snails eat other snails, but the role of snails in the food chain is extremely important for our birds and our frogs and many other small animals. Larger animals also enjoy snails, including humans. Escargot in France, but also Nigeria, Italy, Vietnam, southwestern China, and parts of the United States have very popular snails. Raising snails for food is called heliciculture, and the eggs of some snails are also eaten in a way similar to caviar. Snails play a very important role in decomposition and biodiversity. Land snails spend most of their time in the leaf litter layer, and there they consume the dead and decaying vegetation, helping to decompose it. With their nutrient-rich species they live behind, the snails play a very important role in soil formation, and appreciating their role in nature is crucial for a healthy and natural ecosystem. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Abigail. And she will be back up here in just a bit for one more Irish-inspired Eco Minute. But first, we're going to turn it back over to John and Carol for some more ballads and ballad history. Ladies and gentlemen, Shamrocks in the Wind.
Thank you very much. This next song is probably one of the most popular of the ballads in Ireland, and it says a lot about Irish mentality. But the most popular song in Ireland in ballads is about a girl who works in a bar, steals from customers, and gets her customers arrested.
Okay. Like Wild Colonial Boy, they have a thrill for
So look forward to it.
thievery.
We're going to the same place. It's called the Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like the diamond. You'd think she was queen of the night. Her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. In a neat little town they called Belfast, apprenticed to trade I was bound. And many the hours of sweet happiness I spent in that neat little town. Till bad misfortune came o'er me and caused me to stray from the land, far away from my friends and relations, to follow the Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like the diamond. You'd think she was queen of the land. Her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. As I went out rolling one evening, not meaning to go very far, I met with a ficklesome damsel. She was selling her trade in a bar. When I watched she took from a customer, she slipped it right into my hand. Then the law came and put me in prison. Bad luck to that Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like the diamond. You'd think she was queen of the land. Her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. Next morning before judge and jury, the trial I had to appear. The judge, he said, my young fellow, the case against you is quite clear. And 7 long years is your sentence. You're going to Van Diemen's Land, far away from your friends and relations, to follow the Black Velvet Band. Her eyes, they shone like the diamond. You'd think she was queen of the land. Her hair hung over her shoulders, tied up with a black velvet band. So come all ye jolly young fellows, I'd have you take warning by me. Whenever you're after the liquor, me boy, beware of the pretty Colleen. For they'll fill you with whiskey and porter till you are not able to stand. And the very next thing that you know, me lads, you've landed in Van Diemen's land. Her eyes, they shone like the diamond. You'd think she was queen of the land. Her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. Now, one of the little known bits of trivia about Irish music, especially ballads, are that many of the Irish songs really are war songs or anti-English songs, but a lot of them are hidden, and you don't know that's what they are. There is a song called Nell Flaherty's Drake. A woman has lost her duck, somebody killed it, and she curses him for 3 verses. But if you know, the duck is Robert Emmet, a great Irish martyr. So the Irish figured out that since the British don't figure any of those out and don't punish it for them, maybe we can fool the priests as well. And they came up with some of those too.
Right, and you could sing the song in front of your children and they wouldn't know either.
No. Now this is a song about a German who comes to Dublin, and he's a clockwinder.
Now you do know
But
the Germans did a lot of other things in Ireland. For instance, they helped the North Irish obtain guns. They also helped my relatives in the making of historic spirits. In other words, the McDermotts were one of the rum runners, as well as gun running. It was rum running, you know. I mean, any alcohol will do.
And so even though the song is about a clockwinder, just keep in mind the song is not about winding clocks, okay? And G3. A German clockwinder in Dublin once came. Benjamin Fuchs was the old German's name. As he was winding his way round the Strand, he played on his flute and the music was grand. Singing turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a-turtle-a See, nothing wrong about this song. There was this old lady from Cedar Square, said that her clock was in need of repair. And walked the old German, and to her delight, in less than 5 minutes, he had her clock right. Singing turtle, 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 lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying, turtle, 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 lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying. Now as they were sitting down there on the floor, there came this very loud knock on the door. In walked her husband, and great was his shock to see that old German wind up his wife's clock. The husband said he, look here, Mary Ann, don't let that old German come in here again. He wound up your clock and left mine on the shelf. If your old clock needs winding, sure I'll wind it myself. Singing turtle, 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 lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying, turtle, 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 lying, turtle, lying, turtle, lying.
Thank you.
What did I
Now,
do? Oh, I stepped on my cord.
you stepped on your cord.
Oh, didn't pick it up.
All right, I can talk, no problem.
I'm old, I don't move around very well.
All right, this next one is called the Jolly Tinker.
Oh,
Because, as you know, the Tinkers were part of a bigger group called the Traveling People. Do any of you know about the Traveling People? Okay. The Traveling People had their own little caravans, and they used to be in actual Conestoga wagon type, and then they moved into more cabin-like wagons. And,
They drive RVs today.
and now they drive little RVs everywhere, but they're still there. And even though they've tried to stamp them out, they are a way of life. The postman knows exactly where they are and they deliver their mail. So this song was about one faction of those, and tinkers were the people who fixed the pots and pans. They were expensive, and so they would put a little piece of metal in there, what do you call it?
Well,
The tinker's dam.
they would take, there's a term you've heard, something is not worth a tinker's dam. You've heard that phrase? A tinker's dam is a pinch of mud that the tinker put on the outside of the pot, and then he soldered and welded the inside. So if something's not worth a tinker's dam, it's not worth a pinch of mud. So they were known colloquially as going around blocking holes. And you can read that more than one way.
Expanded on that just a little bit.
This is a song called The Jolly Tinker. As I went down the shady lane to the door at Chestnut Knock, every many pots or kettles and rusty holes to block. Well, indeed I do, don't you know I have? But a rightful turtle, well, indeed I have. The missus came out to the door and she asked me to come in. And you're welcome, Jolly Tinker, I hope you brought your tin. Well, indeed I did, don't you know I did. Now the rightful turtle, well, indeed I did. She took me to the kitchen, she led me through the hall. The servants cried the devil, has he come to block us all? Well, indeed I have, don't you know I have. Now the rightful turtle, well, indeed I have. She took me up the stairs, the lads to show me what to do. The cheek fell on the feather bed, I fell on it too. Well, indeed I did, don't you know I did. Now the rightful turtle, well, indeed I did. She then picked up the frying pan and she began to knock, to let the servants know me lads that I was at me work. Well, indeed I was, don't you know I was. Now the rightful turtle, well, indeed I was. She put her hand into her pocket, she pulled out 20 pounds. Say, kiss me, Jolly Tinker, and we'll have another round. Well, indeed we will, don't you know we will. Now the rightful turtle, well, indeed we will. Well, I've been a Jolly Tinker for these 40 years or more. Ah, but such a lovely job as that I never did before. No, indeed I did, don't you know I did. Got a rightful turtle, well, indeed I did. I didn't.
And that's the truth?
Well, no. But the Jolly Tinker.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Shamrocks in the Wind. They will be back for one more set of music before we take a break this afternoon. Our next distinguished guest is Michael Jeffcoat, a North Carolina-based forensic historian, writer, and director of development for Preserve Mecklenburg. As a forensic historian, he has worked on cold cases for missing persons, as well as delving into centuries-old mysteries and historical events. And as a writer, he is readying a book for publication about the life of his cousin, Eartha Kitt, the entertainer, civil rights activist, and unofficial operative for the United States of America. His family lives in an 18th century Methodist parsonage where, as a direct descendant of John Belk, he hosts the Belk family reunion every decade. His ancestry and family history are well anchored in northern Mecklenburg County and specifically the Scots-Irish Presbyterians who settled the region in the 18th century. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure to present Michael Jeffcoat.
Hello, hello. Hear me? Everybody hear me? That's great. What a great looking group of people you are. I mean, the last time I saw a group this great looking was at my family reunion. That's how great looking you really are. So he gave you a little background on me, and my motto for talking to people is if we're not here for each other, why are we here? Why are we brought here today to have these discussions about things that happened a long time ago? And one of the reasons we're here, because it's Women's History Month, is not the reason I'm talking about this, is because of women. And through history, there have been some very powerful, I think I'm getting, yeah, there have been some very powerful, can you hear me? Powerful things called female continuums. And one of the great people to sort of bring it to the forefront on March 31st, 1776, was a brilliant woman named Abigail Adams. And Abigail Adams is really frustrated with John Adams, and she knows the Constitution is being formed, and so she writes in this letter and says, you know, your sex is tyrannical. And it's really important that you remember the ladies. And that sort of sets the tone for the talk that I have today. No. Technology guy.
Yeah, it's just.
It does. And one more, right? Sorry. All right. Yeah. So, a little correction to the introduction I got. My father's family has this 1769 parsonage, Methodist parsonage in South Carolina. And my mother's family is from North Carolina, Lancaster, Waxhaw, and North Mecklenburg. But they fuse together in a really interesting way. I decided today, because it's Women's History Month, to talk about an amazing woman we know nothing about. And her name is Margaret Jack Wilson. And you'll see a little description of who she is and how she came to be here. And we're talking about, obviously, the Scots-Irish immigration. And there's a lot of pieces of history in that I'm just going to flash up for you. If you have never read Bankhurst, Benjamin Bankhurst, talk about the reason for that Scots-Irish immigration and the flood of Scots into Ireland and all those things that relate to Queen Anne and everything, take a moment to remember his name and go look at that. I can't give you everything today. I'm going to give you a 6-hour lecture in about 20 minutes. One of the great things about this woman, Margaret Jack Wilson, is her brother, Captain Jack, and her lineage through Patrick Jack. And you have to remember, as I know you do, that these people came through Pennsylvania. But behind all of them was a movement that was much greater than just a matter of coming to a new country, trying to settle a place. There are missions and migrations that coincide to bring people to places and then relocate them for similar or same reasons or new reasons. And so as a forensic historian, I look at those things and try to overlay and understand a profile of that person, just like a professional profiler would do. And her study becomes very interesting because, if you know, Captain Jack is the one that took the Declaration up to Congress. And in her lifetime, she was this woman. Well, somehow the piece missed. But the bottom part is the most important part. This is an article that talks about her life, and when it came time for the burial of Davidson, her clothing for her husband, Wilson, and her home was provided for the funeral. So, I'm sorry, Captain Jack's clothes, old clothes were provided. So to bury him properly. But when she passed away, like so many other women, remember she was about 58 when she passed away, and she says about how she's going to die. No, she said, I was like a ship, long tossed at sea and about to land at a port of rest. This becomes that defining moment where you look at Abigail Adams and you look at her, and you understand these women were not behind the scenes. And so the story I'm getting ready to tell you is about the wonderful patronage of Queen Charlotte and a woman named Selina Shirley Hastings that set the places and the lifestyles and the agendas for these people, especially women. We have this sort of story that Queen Charlotte, was given this name as an honor for the city of Charlotte, and that's not the entire truth. It was very much a movement to honor this Queen Charlotte through her friend, Lady Selina Shirley Hastings, Countess of Huntingdon. And so what you'll see here, remember they came down here from Pennsylvania in the 1760s. And what you'll see is at this magic moment around 1767, there's this great movement in the United States which defines the location of the city of Charlotte. And of course, Queen Charlotte is new, right? She's the new queen. But she has an ally in this woman, the big photograph, Selina Shirley Hastings, Countess of Huntingdon, whose daughter held Queen Charlotte's train, whose grandson commissioned the gold stage coach that she rode in. Queen Charlotte arrived in this country not speaking England, not speaking English, and 6 hours later was married to George. So she sort of understood this idea of needing empowerment for women. And so she became the sponsor of Lady Selina Shirley Hastings, Countess of Huntingdon, who was her cousin and advisor. And that's before the American Revolution. And they set in place these different places. One happens to be, they came to use education and faith as ways to bridge the cultural gaps. Music and poetry they used because children could understand that. But they placed these places. So at the Indian place, they created Dartmouth College. At Standing Stone in Pennsylvania, where you'll find all these Irish immigrants, including the Bighams who were over at the Steel Crease, she created this place that became Princeton University and the Log College. And so these women were behind all these male narratives we hear about. And so right on down the city of Charlotte, and then over here in South Carolina near Fort Charlotte, there's a settlement called the Indian Head where the parsonage exists today. And that parsonage is actually where Eartha Kitt's family comes from, and my family. But if you look over to, in Alabama, the lands of her partner, which is this middle lady right here with a necklace on beside Abigail Adams, her name is Sohoy Marchant McGilvray, and she was the #1 Creek Indian matrilineal in this nation. And what happened in 1735 when Oglethorpe invited all these people over to create this wonderful society and make sure Georgia didn't become slaveholding, these are the people that were behind those forces, including Mary Musgrove, her cousin. And so it was the women that stepped forward and said, if we're going to keep the society together through conflicts and everything else, and that's what women do, they look at all the mess and they say, after it's over, what about my family? What about my church? What about my community? What about all the things that are relevant? And so Abigail Adams was right. The male sex is tyrannical. We're looking at the moment, trying to get through things. And all of these women start to form an amazing female continuum that carries us into the early part of the forming of our country. But I'm going to show you the continuum that takes us all the way through to 2019 and the reopening of the Statue of Liberty to reflect its true message. If you don't know about the museum, it reopened in 2019 for a lot of great new information. So anyway, over there in Alabama, on Sohoy Marchant's lands, ancestral lands called Tuskegee. Today we find the Tuskegee Institute as an affirmation of their success. And right next door, you find the Huntingdon Methodist College, named for her partner, Selina Shirley Hastings, Countess of Huntingdon. So those are two monuments to their success that get very little play. And if you know Tuskegee Institute, you'll also see that it interfaces with the Roosevelt history, the Booker T. Washington history, and the Rosenwald School history. I don't have time to get into that, but there are beautiful connections through this female continuum. I'll move a little faster, don't worry, okay. This is actually the parsonage, and these are snippets of articles so you can see, you can't see real well. The middle article talks about the Countess of Huntingdon, who had the patron in Queen Charlotte, and how they helped to create the Log College, which became Princeton University. And there's a thing called the Huntingdon Presbytery. And so the people that came to northern Mecklenburg County were actually people that were beneficiaries of that relationship between these two powerful women, one of the ancients and one of the moderns. And one of the men that noticed that was Benjamin Franklin in 1770. He said, those of us who lived in the patrilineal culture of Europe and the matrilineal culture we find of these ancients here that are 4 and 5 times older than the Greeks and Romans, we would choose to live with the patrilineals. So there was a great 70-70 resurgence about what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong in this country right before the American Revolution. So the unique thing about Selina Shirley Hastings is when she came before the Revolution, she was cousin and advisor to George and Martha Washington, and she was cousin and advisor to Queen Charlotte and King George III. She had set in motion, and her husband since 1735, a mission that did not care whether it was American or British. The mission was so much greater when it came to human dignity and liberty that they pushed through the American Revolution to see who would come out the other side. And as soon as they did, she took the reins over the mind of George Washington and helped to create this country. So you see the African-American woman there. Her name is Phyllis Wheatley. And before the revolution started, Selena Shirley Hastings had George Washington wrote a poem to George Washington, Your Excellency. And in the 5th line, it talks about the goddess Columbia of liberty. And this 16-year-old slave was challenged. They said, you can't be writing this amazing works. She's a slave. So they put her on trial in Boston, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock. And they discovered she was this brilliant savant in mind. And George Washington and Martha Washington elevated her to a status where everyone began to see how important this was. That we have these different groups of people that are able to lead these intellectual discussions in communities and politics and stuff like that. So she was very much a part of the female continuum. And then later, Selena Shirley Hastings had another asset in her pocket. Her cousin, William Tryon. So when she has this movement going, she's not only controlling George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, who became her best friend, she's got all these little things in her quiver, these arrows. And so she's got behind her this wonderful man, William Tryon. And they're not thinking about specifically revolution. They're thinking about how they settle in the economics and bringing religion together in politics around all these different communities. And so he built, of course, Tryon Palace. At the same time, and if you look up there, you'll see Washington Shirley, her father. They're related through her father. And what becomes important here, I'm just going to digress. If you look at 1925, when did women get the right to vote? Anybody know? Say again? 1920. Yeah. When did African Americans get the right to vote and become citizens? Way before. When did Native Americans get the right to vote? 1925. You know, my dad was born 2 years after that. I mean, that's how close we live to history. How close. So this particular map was actually done in that period, 1925, to show these ancient routes. And you can't see it up there, but it shows where the parsonage is sitting on the Fort Charlotte Trail. So in 1767, when Selena Shirley Hastings placed that parsonage with her patron, Queen Charlotte, and placed Charlotte, North Carolina, and placed Fort Charlotte, and placed Tuskegee, and placed Standing Stone, and placed Dartmouth College, those two women had a plan. And that was to make sure families and communities were made whole through education and faith. Also, the University of Georgia falls in that category behind them. Also, University of Georgia falls in that category behind them. So there are other examples of the success of their movement in this country. Way back behind there in Sohoy's ancestry is the Queen of Cofetachiki. And if you ever wonder about Charlotte's largest gold nugget, 1540 DeSoto comes in. He comes to her property south of Charlotte by not too far, below Camden, and he decides he wants everything. He wants her gold. She goes, oh, we don't have any gold, but I do have pearls. I got 160 bags of pearls. She was ready for the day a man showed up at her. She was ready. And he said, oh, you don't have gold? No, there's no gold in this area. Well, of course, you know, they came to this country and you saw all the Belk gold mines and all the other gold mines, and the largest gold nugget and the invention of the Mint Museum and the banking industry. And so you can't help but trace it all back to this wonderful narrative that includes women. Not just includes them, makes them in charge. The Queen of Cofetachiki is worth looking into. And I go back to this again because there's the quote by Abigail Adams. And these are the people. To the left is Martha Washington. By the way, Martha and George Washington slept with a portrait of Selena Shirley Hastings at their bedside until they died. She was a strong spiritual advisor to them and a cousin. So they kept that portrait by them. And then to the far right is this woman named America McGilvray, who's the granddaughter of Sohoy Martin McGilvray. And I'll get into that in just a second. So the genealogy of Tryon, they set the parsonage in place at a place called the Indian Head in the middle of South Carolina. and at the same time, this place where the Jack family and the Wilson family moved to the center of town, which is downtown Charlotte, or uptown, excuse me, becomes these narratives, not so much in the name of Queen Charlotte, but also in the understanding that they understood the power of these iconic women that was giving them an opportunity to play a role when destruction was at hand with the American Revolution, and even later the Civil War. So you'll see here this idea of economy, education, and faith as a means of liberty for all people. Selena Shirley Hastings, this was written about her at the bottom, and it says, she was full of love of God, confidence in her Savior. She had many peace, more than peace in her death. And it goes on to talk about her ability to go home to her father. And it basically emulates very much that same sentiment of the great Margaret Jack Wilson when she passed away. And so women always have the same thing in life. It's keeping things together, and at the end of life, they're successful when they're able to say, I did the good thing, I did the right thing. And all these women in the female continuum sort of have that same thing. That's a different piece of it, I'm not going to go into it. And so what began to happen is this female continuum, as you can see, goes all the way from Sohoy Marchant, Selena Shirley Hastings, Queen Charlotte, Phyllis Wheatley, Sohoy's granddaughter, Eleanor Roosevelt. Why Eleanor Roosevelt? So fascinating is that Theodore Roosevelt's third great-grandfather was the uncle of Sohoy's Scottish husband, Lachlan McGilvray. And so if you ever read about the McGilvrays and the Roosevelts didn't quite acknowledge the mixed-race heritage that they had with the Native Americans boldly, but they did preserve it. Also, you'll see the letter in 1790 for the Treaty of New York. Sohoy Marchant McGilvray's son is sent to New York to sign the Treaty of New York with George Washington. So all these women are shaping that Treaty of New York, and it's designed to give the lands to the southeast to the United States. And so Abigail Adams is awestruck by meeting America's father and Sohoy's son, because he's Scottish, French, Creek Indian. But she says, oh, he's not dark. He's not a savage at all. He speaks language better than we do. He's dressed in the latest European fashion. He was educated in Europe. He was meant to rise and become the king of the United States. And so they raised him up to be this wonderful power. And at 40, he signs the Treaty of New York with George Washington. And in the Treaty of New York, there's a little bit about Phyllis Wheatley. In the Treaty of New York, once he signs it in 1790, Alexander McGilvray is both a general for the Scottish, general for the French, general for the U.S., general for Spain, general for France, and emperor of the Seminole and Creek Indian Nation. And he's signing this treaty with George Washington. But yet he's on all sides of power. He signs the treaty at age 40 in 1790, and then he moves away and he goes to Spain and says, forget that, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep the lands in the south, forget it. France, we've got you. You're my mother's French. We'll keep all this together. And so mysteriously he dies at age 43 in 1793. And George Washington acknowledges him as a friend to the country. He was a great asset. Unbeknownst to anyone else, his wife is pregnant. And 4 months after Alexander McGilvray dies, she gives birth to this next French Creek Indian matrilineal. Creek Indians and the British, 1812. We're talking about 1793. So George Washington understands the threat that this new matrilineal Creek Indian woman is. So he takes the infant and he puts her in hiding from Alabama to the parsonage in South Carolina. And he takes the pocket watch that Washington had given her father, McGilvray, at the Treaty of New York, as a proof of her identity. So this great Creek matrilineal Indian, who is also Sohoy's granddaughter and partnered with Selena Shirley Hastings, becomes this woman who's hidden from history and becomes very, very important because the presidents start to look for her. They want to know where she is because she has the ability to bring the Creek Indians back up. And what happens in 1812 is the Creek Indians and the British come. And so, when we start to look at this education, prose, poetry, women, this continuum, we can see a continuum that takes us all the way through until a date at that parsonage in South Carolina, 13th February 1865, where the Union League of Philadelphia arrives and holds a special meeting on the lands of French America McGillivray to bring men from the North and South together to do two things: end the bloodshed of the Civil War, or establish a trajectory to do so, and to end slavery in America. And it is on that day, on the lands of French America, that the Union League of Philadelphia's team, called the Geary Laboulaye team, the father of Statue of Liberty, Laboulaye, come and find success and establish the day that's going to end. And so in ceremony on that day, February 13th, 1865, the Laboulaye Geary team lift up this daughter, French America McGillivray, who is Scottish, French, Creek Indian. She is of the ancients and of the modern, and she is the perfect symbol of liberty. And they do it because Phyllis Wheatley had introduced that great goddess symbol of Columbia to George Washington. And so in this final moment of when the war is going to be ending, this is the moment of Washington's dream and desires and designs, but really the women's, and the apotheosis of coming together with Lincoln in the celebration of that. So there's a second part of the story, which we won't get too far into at all, but the parsonage still stands. The French abolitionist victory insignia is part of the parsonage. You'll also see this medallion on the left inside, which is given from Laboulaye to the widow Lincoln that promises her there will be a Statue of Liberty. That's in 1866. All the French people got together and put in pennies to create the medallion because they did not want the idea of the Statue of Liberty lost. And the Statue of Liberty is that female form, both ancient and both modern, multicultural, multiracial, and it's the promise of what's going to come in this country. And so the Union League of Philadelphia initiated it. If you go to the new museum, the Statue of Liberty Museum, you'll see many things, including the history of the abolitionist movement and the immigration piece. But you'll also see a mask of Savoy's granddaughter, America, French America McGillivray, and you'll also hear more about these narratives. And so there's the pocket watch. And what's so amazing, the pocket watch was missing. It was part of the legend until 2012, which is fascinating to me. And in 2011, the woman who owned the parsonage was actually invited to the wedding, royal wedding of Will and Kate. That happens to be my mother. So she was able to go to that under special invitation. So the pocket watch was missing at the time she went. And then it ends up appearing on the History Channel at a pawnbroker in Louisiana. And so it anchors this whole piece of history, and for the first time we have artifacts that start to prove what this really was about. So there's the only known photograph of her, and she was considered to have an ancient face. Bartholdi called it visage ancient. And I have a book coming out called Torched, and it describes the intricate detail from February 13th, 1865, 21 years later, to 1886, October 28th, they had to figure out how they're going to raise this idea of the Statue of Liberty, get the money, put it in place. But the most important thing was they could not say it was about the abolitionist movement because the South and the North would never heal. And so what ended up happening is all these great men of the Union League, people don't know that William T. Sherman chose the site of the Statue of Liberty. Where would go? Grant supported him. Grant looked at these women, these great women, and said, we need a poem. So Emma Lazarus submits this poem, Give Us Your Tired, Your Poor. And he gets that poem, and that's the one he wants, but then he says, yeah, we'll do this poem. And she says, no, I've got to take it back. Because at the time, she was a young Jewish activist, and most people don't know this. She was back and forth between here and Palestine trying to create a two-state union. How long we had that dialogue? And so what amazing is this idea of the Statue of Liberty as it grows from all these great women, from the Scots women, the Irish women, it never lost its focus. Liberty, education are the devices are the devices to create it. Once you have that, you have enduring liberty within your soul. No one can take it away if you can read and you can write and you have faith, you have all these things, your security.
Great.
So, that's all right. So it starts to play out. Well, over on the right side, you'll see me with a portrait of Alexander McGillivray. I finally got to hold the pocket watch. It was at the Smithsonian for 4 years, and I went and did the lecture. We got it back. But one great piece, the brilliance of Ulysses S. Grant. Emma Lazarus took her poem back. And Grant said, oh, no, don't take it back. But he was trying to bridge the North and the South, so he chose a woman who was named Refugita as her pen name, a writer in Richmond, who had moved to New York and was a wealthy socialite. And so he chose her to go to Emma Lazarus and say, submit the poem back. We need the poem. Let's do the poem. So he chose this woman named Constance Carey Harrison. And remember, they're trying to bridge the North and the South in this moment, so there's no bitterness yet. Lift the statue up. Constance Carey Harrison and her sister sewed the first Confederate battle flag. And so the moment of this idea of bridging wounds and culture and this idea of the Statue of Liberty becomes really poignant in the brilliance of these men when it really was the women. The men get the credit. My wife is sitting right here, so. So there's a wonderful book called Spiritual Pilgrim about Selena Shirley Hastings. I have a lecture called The Stealth Queen Charlotte. This was the dedication day of the parsonage. And Preserve Mecklenburg, the reason this house needs to be preserved and other houses need to be preserved is we're not just preserving a structure. You're preserving these legacies and these stories and these pieces of lives that all become the human tapestry where warp and weft create even tension to keep society together, to keep that multicultural, multi-textured society in a tapestry form together. And so, another lecture I have, which is called Women in America, and then Torched, this wonderful idea of the pocket watch, which preserved the woman who was enshrined in the Statue of Liberty.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Michael Jeffcoat. Thank you very much, Michael. Fascinating, amazing. All right, you may know our next guest, Michael Connor. We're gonna segue from one Michael to another Michael. Our next guest, Michael Connor, you may know him from his work in film and TV. He's an actor, playwright, director, and educator who has appeared in General Hospital, The Color Purple, Homeland, and The Hunger Games. Or you may know him from local appearances with the Davidson Community Players at Central Piedmont Community College, or even here at a Hearts event. But in addition to all that, Michael Connor is an avid historian and a board member of the Hugh Torrance House and Store, where he also volunteers as a docent. Michael is here today to tell us more about his Irish ancestry, which is shared by many other African Americans as well. So it's our distinct pleasure to welcome Michael Connor.
This is good. Okay. I'm going to be very brief. Okay. When you think about African Americans' heritage, you have to bring in the plantation. Okay. My great-great-grandmother, Peggy Graham, also known as Margaret Connor, comes from H.W. Connor's plantation in historic Terrell, which is in Sherrills Ford. Okay. Now, H.W. Connor, before he became a congressman, fought in the Creek Indian War under Joseph Graham, which was a brigadier general at that time. So my great-great-grandmother probably came from the Graham plantation and went into the Connors plantation after that. Connor, when you trace his ancestry, goes all the way back to Ireland. He comes from Prince County, I think, Virginia, and then his father comes from Ireland and they get over here. He owns most of the enslaved people up in Lincoln County. And he's a congressman for about 20 years, 1820 to 1840. And in that time, he has all these enslaved people. So I have some relatives that I don't even know. And then I have some people that have my name and we're not even related. Now, Peggy Graham was born in 1815. My great-grandfather, Cheeseman Monroe Connor, was born, he was born in 1855. Okay. Now, Cheeseman Monroe Connor's first wife was Nancy Lonecry, a Creek Indian perhaps. She dies after having about 3 or 4 kids. That doesn't stop him. He marries a second time to Sylvia Johnson. Sylvia Johnson has about 16 kids. My great-grandfather had about 21 kids. He was never in the Civil War because he was too young, 1855 when he was born. His brother, however, Q Connor, was in the Civil War. And Q Connor moved into Davidson after he left the Civil War. And if you look at some of the material that MHA did on me, they talk about Q Connor's boys and what they did. Somebody shot the sheriff. Somebody got away with it. And somebody didn't. Okay. Now, when I think about my great-grandfather, the 21 kids he has, his father was Cyrus Connor. Cyrus Connor, probably his ancestors were also Irish. My great-grandfather was a mulatto. My great-great-grandmother did not marry Cyrus Connor. Cyrus Connor was in the Civil War, and he commanded an all-color regiment. When I did further research to find out what did they really do, what did this regiment really do, they went around and they buried the dead. That's what they did. Okay. His pension was given to another lady. I found out who that was as well. I looked in the records at the Lincoln Library, the Charles Jonas Library, says that Peggy Graham, also known as Margaret Connor, was a free person of color in 1863, after Lincoln made the Emancipation Proclamation. And she was living with a man named Rams Beatty. They didn't have any children. Now, most of this information that came to me came from my great aunt, who lived to be 106 years old. We called her Aunt Mildred. She was the youngest of Cheeseman Monroe Connor's children. Okay. Now, Cheeseman Monroe Connor had a son named John Connor, my grandfather, which John Connor Road is named after. John Connor had 12 children. John Connor's mother was not Sylvia Johnson. His mother was Janie Johnson. My great-grandfather never married Janie Johnson. But John Connor buried my great-grandfather. They left from historic Terrell to Denver, where Ebenezer Church is still there. The graves across the street from the church, and Cheeseman Monroe Connor is buried there. However, he left there in Denver and came to Hunter's Chapel in Mecklenburg County. And he did this, and he became a member of that church in 1908. He was the founding member of the Hunter's Chapel Church. Okay. Now, John Connor had those 12 children. One of them's name was, go to another slide. That's good. The lady in the center is Georgie Torrance, born probably 1916. Georgie Torrance married James Torrance. James Torrance's family and ancestors probably came from this Torrance plantation, since they were the largest plantation. Again, most of the Torrances left here in 1865, and only one man came back. James Torrance's family lived in Davidson, and there they went to Torrance Chapel before they went into Hunter's Chapel Church. Georgie Torrance and James Torrance are buried at Hunter's Chapel Church on John Connor Road. That's most of my connection to the Irish. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got another Eco Minute with Abigail, and I'll just give you an idea of what's coming up next. Some of you may be wondering, where's the intermission? Don't we usually have an intermission by now? Yet we usually do. Today, things are a little different because we are going to be welcoming the Connick Reed School of Irish Dance, and we're going to be presenting them on the front porch. And so for that reason, we're just going to take a late intermission before their performance, and they'll be our final act today. So before that, we've got an Eco Minute with Abigail, and then we're going to be treated to a final set of music by Shamrocks in the Wind, and then we'll take a brief break where we'll move outside. If any of you would like to pick up a chair and take it outside to the front lawn, you're welcome to do that, and we'll reconvene out there. But without further ado, Abigail is going to tell us about shamrocks, or should I say white clover.
Thank you, Randolph. So, of course, in keeping with our theme of Irish Connections, today we celebrate shamrocks. And so for some of you, you may see them in the grocery store and think, those don't look like that. But this is the real shamrock, so I'm going to tell you about today. So what you're seeing in the stores is usually oxalis or wood sorrel. Those are not shamrocks. The true Irish shamrocks are a simple and beneficial local clover. The word shamrock derives from the Irish seamrock, meaning young clover. It was native to Ireland and Europe, so a lot of people think it's a native species here. It's not. They brought it with them because of the many benefits that it has. So it was brought by the early immigrants and wildly cultivated during pre-colonial times, and now it has naturalized throughout the United States. The three leaves of the shamrock are the Irish symbol for the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and often associated with St. Patrick, but their lore goes back many, many centuries further to the times of the Druids and the Celts. The four-leaf clover, which is also Trifolium repens, is a genetic mutation whose rarity renders them lucky to the beholder. The benefits of clover are many, but unfortunately is often scorned and destroyed as a weed by those seeking that perfect green lawn. So I ask you to rethink that. Unlike a high-maintenance lawn, clover requires little attention and gives back a lot to our environment. A dense ground cover, clover prevents erosion and releases nitrogen to promote a richer soil. And as an integral part of the ecosystem in our food web, clover feeds wildlife as well as livestock. A historic and healthy pasture crop for cattle and sheep that only graze on clover often don't need any other types of feed due to its nutritional benefits. Honeybees love clover and help pollinate other plants so that they can bloom. Other animals that enjoy clover include deer, rabbits, foxes, and woodchucks. Clover is a mainstay for insects and butterflies like the eastern tiger swallowtail and the spicebush swallowtail. Birds that graze on clover include Canada geese, wild turkey, grouse, partridge, and quail. Historic healers, from the Druids to American Indians to pioneers, recognized clover's wide range of health benefits too, many of which continue in modern medicine today. 5 trifolium species, which are repens, africanum, bertillum, dubium, and pratense, are known to be rich in essential nutrients and an optimal mix of protein, fiber, calcium, selenium, vitamins A and D. So, embracing clover within our landscapes is clearly good for our environment. Through utilizing clover in lawns, herbicide and pesticide use is reduced, helping our soil and water quality. Clover helps grass becomes more disease resistant through providing minerals to your lawn, which also reduces the need for fertilizers. So the next time you see a patch of clover, we hope you take a moment and appreciate the lore of this legendary ground cover. You can help our environment's future by keeping clover in your yard, and maybe you'll find a lucky 4-leaf clover too. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks Abigail, and for making us all feel better about the clover in our lawns. All right, next we've got a final set of music from Shamrocks in the Wind, and we're going to turn it over to them. And remember, The Pink Room bar and reading room is open across the hall. Hugh Torrance House and Store is also open and will be open through 5 o'clock today. If you can make it over there. And yes, lots of local artisan goods, books, local history, local ecology, and more is to be found over at the Hugh Torrance House and Store, and docents are on hand to give tours as well, so don't miss that. But now it's my pleasure to turn it over one more time to John and Carol, Shamrocks in the Wind.
Thank you. And fortunately, our name is Shamrocks in the Wind, and we're well preserved too.
Well, sort of preserved anyway. Okay. This next song is one written back in the sailing days in Ireland, and it's another fun, poking fun at themselves Irish song. If anyone here is a sailor that actually sails, okay. Just listen to the words of the song and you'll understand how
Okay, be
incredibly
truthful.
strange.
Come on, you know the fish story? Well, first the fish started out this big, and then you told it to the next guy, and the fish got this big, and then pretty soon the fish is this big. This proves the Irish started that habit. Yes. And in the tradition of Irish pub songs, you have an audience part at the end of this song.
And we're not going to tell you what it is. You just watch Carol. You will know what it is. And I'll tell you a little bit about it afterwards. In the year of our Lord 1806, we set sail on the Cold Bay of Port. We were sailing away in the cargo of bricks, rather than simply all that we did. We had a crazy with Rick Fore and aft. Out of the trade winds over, we had 23 masts. We stood sails a blast. We called for the Irish rover. Now they were Johnny McGee from the banks of the Lee, Hogan from County Tyrone. There was Roddy O'Gore, who was scared stiff of work. A chap from with me called alone. There was Sugar O'Toole, who was drunk as a rube, finding the trays in the over. And here comes the man from the banks of the band, to skip of the Irish rover. Here's where it gets weird. We had 1 million bags of the best Sligo rags, 2 million barrels of coal. We had 3 million bales of old Nanny Goat's tails, 4 million barrels of stone. We had 5 million hogs, 6 million dogs, 7 million barrels of porter. We had 8 million sides of old 10 horses hide, over the Irish rover. Well, we had sailed 7 years when the measles broke out. The ship lost her way in the fog. Great fog! That poor crew was reduced down to 2, myself and the skipper go down. Then the ship struck a rock, Lord, what a shock! Nearly tumbled over. She could dive 9 times around, and the poor old dog was drowned. If you've gone to Irish pubs in Ireland, you've heard that song, but you've never heard the howl at the end. When Carol started singing to me, she just did that once and I couldn't get her to quit. We were in Ireland about 20 years ago at a small pub dating from the 1600s out in the middle of Ireland. And there was a band on the stage and it was all locals. There was 100 people packed in a room this size. And there was a band on stage and they played that. And it came down to the end and she howled.
Ow!
Dead silence. For about 200 minutes. Then the entire crowd joined her. The band walked up to the edge of the stage and looked at her and did various hand movements at her. But we have it on good authority that even though they don't do it anywhere else, in that pub in Ireland today, they still howl at the end of that song.
He
Just
says,
as
I
funny.
have infected them.
Well, since this is kind of an Irish-Scots thing, this next song is actually a Scottish song. But it has a clapping part, and you need to learn this one because you're going to get two more of them before we're done.
It tells you how to start clapping.
Start clapping.
Okay.
So, and all it is on this one, when we get to the chorus, we will say, home boys home, you clap twice. That's it. It's real simple. Anybody can do it. Go something like this. Finding the servant maid down Bakery Lane. Master, he was good to her, the mistress was the same. Till one night a sailor lad chanced the port to stay, and that was the beginning of my true love and me. Now it's home, boys, home. It's home I like to be, home for a while in the old country, where the oak and the ash and the vine grow a tree. They all are growing free in the old country. I asked her for a candle to light my way to bed. Likewise for a handkerchief to wrap around my head, to wrap around me head as I used to do. For I said, my pretty Molly, won't you come to bed too? For it's home, boy, home. It's home I like to be, home for a while in the old country, where the oak and the ash and the vine grow a tree. They all go free in the old country. Early the next morning, the sailor he arose, into the bosom drew a handful of gold, saying, this I will give you, and more I will do, and you will be my true love wherever I go. For it's home, boy, home. It's home I like to be, home for a while in the old country, where the oak and the ash and the vine grow a tree. They all grow a tree in the old country. Now if you have a daughter, call her after me. If you have a son, send him off to sea, with his bell-bottom trousers, his coat of true blue, and he can climb the rigging like his daddy used to do. For it's home, boy, home. It's home I like to be, home for a while in the old country, where the oak and the ash and the vine grow a tree. They all are growing free in the old country. Good job. Now it's going to get just a little tougher. This next one, you don't do anything until the end of the verse. Then when Carol starts playing the bass, you just clap along with the music. In time. But when you come to the end of the chorus, the word is wake. Always wake. Stop clapping. It's wake and dead silence in the room, okay? Everyone understands the process.
Wait.
I do not think that's true. And this is a song that inspired Ireland's great author, James Joyce, to write the book by the same name. This song is 300 years old. His book came out in the 1930s. Do you have something else to say?
I never have anything else to say.
Tim Finnegan owned in Walking Street, a gentle Irishman might he odd. He had a brogue so rich and sweet, and to rise in the world he carried a home. Now you see, this earth the tipple and way, where the lover of liquor Tim was born. And to help him on with his work each day, he'd run to the grave every morning.
Put it down there. Oh, almost. Very good.
Blind morning chuckle brother
She
Thor.
hasn't had enough to drink, has she?
His head felt heavy, which made him shake. He fell to the ladder and he broke his skull. They carried him home, his corpse to wake. They rolled him up on a nice clean sheet. They laid him out upon the bed. A gallon of whiskey at his feet, and a barrel of porter at his head. So close. I don't know, third time is always.
There's beer up there, I think.
His friend assembled at the wake, and Mrs. Finnegan called for lunch. Could be one word, she makes it credenza. First she brought in tea and cakes, then pipes, tobacco, and whiskey punch. Oh, baby, and me as we cried. Such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Ah, simple boy, then why did you die? Hush, your gosh, and Fanny McGee. That maggot little thing knocked his head when a nugget of whiskey flew at him. It pissed and fallen on the bed. The liver scabbered over him. Big God, he revives. See how he rises. Said he rises from the dead. Said, where did whiskey run like legs of thunder light and you think I'm dead? How's your old one?
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Shamrocks in the Wind. John and Carrie Dino. That was fantastic. Thank you guys so much for making the trip and being here. We are going to now take our a brief little break. Coming up next, we have the iconic Reed School of Irish Dance performing on the front porch. So we're going to take a little break and transition over to that. If you would like to take your folding chair out on the front lawn, please feel free. If you would like to get any refreshments from the Pink Room Bar before you head outside, the Pink Room Bar is still open. But I think I'm hearing that it is last call from the Pink Room Bar, so be sure to avail yourselves of that opportunity if you would like, and we will see you out front.
Come on up here. Sir, you come. You've got a question. Come on up here. You're looking at something down. Get on back here.
When you go up the stairs, there's a bit
I look in the screen, and the port there is in the street, yes, that's the
Thank you very much.
I
think I've seen it a few times.
There shouldn't be chairs. There's two rocking chairs.
I'm sure they probably do.
Yes, very, very much so.
I'm from Kansas.
Oh, you know the area very well.
Yeah.
Well, we recruited when they made camels, the unicorn song.
Yeah.
So we recruited that. So we have to pay them money. So we know them well. Oh, yes, indeed. We do it a lot of this. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's right. With the band.
Yep. Well, unfortunately, when COVID hit, it kind of got rid of a lot of the kids for the big bands.
Yeah.
And now people don't, some places around, they don't have the money to spend on a bigger band. So it's mostly just us now. On the West Coast, we used to have a fiddler and a organ player and a horn player and, but we're still keeping it alive.
That's good.
And that's the important thing.
That's good.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
You make a left off of Japan onto John Connor.
Oh, yeah, I can think, yeah.
John Connor used to be raised for the road, so if you keep straight, you run into the water where suddenly the beach, well, that's where the bones will be raised.
But they did a lot of poor things like that then, back then. Like they weren't allowed to smile or something.
Oh, no.
I mean, think about Mona Lisa, well, if they just come here from Ireland during the famine, I imagine he probably was. But, you know. Yeah, that's true. But you never know what caused him to be sad.
This
one I find very sad.
So I have a photograph of my great grandmother and grandfather. He is this huge, multi-looking man. And this is when they were probably. Look at that picture, I feel so sorry for her, for what she must have gone through to wind up looking like that. And he looked so happy.
I was doing this like, this is the last time I was there.
Well, Carol is one of 12. And her- We were watching, you may, I don't know if you've seen her, but on the street called Outlander, television series. Just watching the Rick Home, what it was like to live back then. They have done it so well.
On this island, right? It's amazing. I'm very sure it's she had never been to Scotland, the old road.
And I've done it all from history.
Well, she researched, I was excited to research, she can only get you so, I'm a marine biologist. And also scientist.
We love her books, so we can't wait for the end of the story. Well, not the end, the next segment. Do you work with us?
Well, there's another series of production, the last half of the last season, 8 through 13 episodes, it's just production. So they haven't exactly I follow it very closely, because I really want to see those.
I love her books, I got the books that bio.
Yeah. Did you like to hear?
Oh, I would love to hear
But
that.
anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's okay to leave this stuff here for a few minutes?
Yes. Hey, Abigail. Hey, I need help. I need help setting up this tripod and then someone operating this.
My daughter, she'll probably get another one at some point, but right now she just wants time just to be able to do her own thing for a little while and find out. So you wonder what that is as far as if she wants to get another animal. You don't know, but right now she just wants some time for herself.
Getting this.
I don't really know how to do this.
Yeah,
I don't think I really can, but I'll just help you. Where are you at?
Get that.
I don't think you can both do it.
Or they could be, they might be the organizers or whatever. Can you hear me?
Do you want to just hand?
It needs to be louder.
Hand hold that.
Go get it louder.
Okay.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. We were at Highland Grill there. They just watched the grill for all the first. It's kind of usually it's like 6 or 7. I was getting so whatever. I kept moving my seat. I couldn't get company so hard. I said, if I'd known, I would have had something I could sit on. I saw some lady bring.
Get you to stand up for just 3 minutes if you get somebody to sit down.
The lady in front of me, the one that was in front of me, this lady had a cushion she brought with her, so she anticipated. These are nice chairs. Well, they are. I know, right? Well, they said something of dance, but I'm not sure. I know Mom's was a dancing school. I mean, they were, you know, all different levels, and you know, teachers were there, and you know, everything. And they encouraged, like, the real little ones that were up there dancing because they were just learning, you know. So it was so cute to watch the little ones. And they had the little girls, even though they were little, they had the big fancy hair and all that. You just like the Irish, like a true dancer. It was really cool. It was. I mean, no, like great, all great, and you know, all of like a great big old bun thing. You know? I mean, it was really. Oh, I loved it. Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,